Yeah, I kind of want to make sure that everybody is straight on this because, of course, you knew it was going to happen. You knew it was coming. You knew that you weren't going to get away from it. The minute that our latest school shooting took place, already the far right, the TERFs, the Nazis, the conservative Christian Republicans are saying that the shooter was transgender. And then they're going further, doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on it by saying, well, of course, all school shooters are trans. I'm telling you right now, just so that we're all straight on this, for lack of a better term, that is a lie. It is an absolute 100% fabrication. The shooter has just been identified. I thought at first it was a 17-year-old, but no, it was a 15-year-old girl. I forgot what they said her name was. Somebody's probably mentioning it here. I can't even find her name. I'm sure it'll come up. I'm sure it'll come up as I continue to read and everything. But it was a 15-year-old girl. No, she was not trans. Somebody on Twitter actually is spreading around from this girl's former boyfriend a copy of her manifesto and different social media messages and texts and tweets and all that stuff that they used to spread around between themselves. She was born a female. She was a cis female, identified as the gender she was born as, was not trans. I don't even think she was gay because she had a boyfriend who likewise was born male, is a cis male, and is not trans. This is an outright lie that is being spread like it's some knee-jerk reaction for the conservative Christian right to try to project all of their problems and all of their ills they thrust on society onto other people. Whether it's so that they can sleep at night or because they don't want people pointing the finger at them and saying, this is the type of shit you support, so you are also by proxy guilty. Or if they think if in some parochial way, if they say it first, then it's not true of themselves or their views or their shooters. I don't know and I don't care. What I do care about is that there are real victims here right now. There are people who are dead. There are families who once again are grieving the loss of staff and students at a school because for some reason, anybody with any type of problem, whether it be with the government or because they're Nazis or because they can't get laid, the usual right-wing nut shit, it's so easy for them to target children as opposed to, say, a healthcare CEO. And then we get this guilty as fuck rhetoric, propaganda, outright lies from the right. And, you know, this has been going on since we got any information at all about the shooter. And already I'm done with it. I'm over it. I don't understand why people are still arguing with each other under the Christian school name hashtag, because there's nothing to argue about. The shooter was not trans. We have the manifesto. Authorities didn't even have to release anything. The boyfriend released it. She was ticked off, triggered, urged, whatever you want to say, she's dead now, by a TERF, some TERF right-wing neo-Nazi out of some other country. She was absolutely a right-wing extremist. She was a domestic terrorist. She supported people and personalities and viewpoints and propaganda 100% hard right. Conservative, Republican, far right, neo-Nazi, anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ, anti-minority, anti-everything that fucking exists. That is a fact. Like I said, I'm already done with it. I am not going to even bother arguing with anybody on Twitter or my other social medias. I'm not going to listen to anybody even try to weasel the word trans into a conversation about this shooter. Let me make sure that we're straight on something else right now. The overwhelming majority, and by overwhelming, I mean 99.99999 repeating 9% of school shooters, mass shooters, private shooters, stand your ground shooters, racist shooters, kid shooters, any type of shooter. Doesn't even have to be a mass shooting. Doesn't even have to be a school shooting. They are all not trans. One trans individual at a particular school one time, and there are still questions surrounding that, may have been trans. One. Every school shooter, if you want to just go with school shootings, Sandy Hook, Columbine, the Christian school here, any fucking school, any school, with very few exceptions. And by very few, I mean like two. There are two that I can think of off the top of my head right now. One would be with that actual, possibly trans individual. The other one was when a 6-year-old brought his gun, his parents or his cousin's gun into school and shot a little girl who was 6. And this was, I think this was in the late 90s. I believe it was the late 90s. It was in Michael Moore's Bowling for Columbine documentary. And that was also the youngest school shooting. And I think it still holds the title for youngest school shooting. Those are the only two instances I can think of off the top of my head where a school shooter was not, in fact, a far-right, neo-Nazi loving, Christian conservative, fucked in the head, I hate women, I hate gays, I hate trans individuals, I hate sluts, I have no friends, I can't get laid, MAGA this, America that, patriot this, alpha male that, piece of shit, far right-wing nut. That is a fact. It's just the way it is. And you know what the funny thing about this is? Nobody is looking at a shooter, especially a child. Nobody is going to look at a shooter at a school and, at least out loud, lump you as somebody who voted for Trump, or somebody who owns a red hat, or somebody who would consider themselves a conservative or Republican. Nobody is going to look at you and say, you like this. You like the idea that a child lies dead and another teacher lies dead. Nobody is even saying that. It sure as hell doesn't help, but nobody sane is going to bother taking the time or the effort to mock you because you're some MAGA Karen in the wake of another school shooting. Nobody's doing that. But they have to lie. They have to say, oh, it was a trans person. You know, those trans people, all school shootings are done by trans people. You know, there's something inherently wrong with trans people. There's something wrong with them queerosexuals. There's something wrong with black people. There's something wrong with immigrants. There's something wrong with the sluts that won't have sex with me. There's something wrong with everyone but themselves. This is what they feel compelled to do. Anytime there's a shooting now at a school, anytime anything goes wrong, they are compelled to do this, to lie. And that tells you all you need to know. Why would you have to lie? If it were true, you wouldn't have to make anything up. You didn't even have the shooter's name yet. But, oh, it was a trans person. Just stop. Stop! Your credibility is shit. Something is wrong with your brain. And this is why this shit is dangerous. And I've been saying it all along. The longer this shit is allowed to go on, that's the more time and effort and manpower and real brains that are missing from the equation. How do we stop this? The more this shit is allowed to proliferate, the longer it's going to take for us to reach a conclusion, a satisfying remedy for this. The first thing you have to do in a situation like this is call a spade a spade. You have to agree on what fucking reality is. You have to look at how things are. You have to accept that there is a problem so that you can then work on that problem. Trans people are not the problem. This was not a trans shooter. Again, it was a far-right shooter. And again, nobody's even wasting time blaming you personally. But you gotta get it in there. You just gotta weasel your propaganda, your outright lies in there. And stop! We know you feel guilty. We know that you know this is almost exclusively a you problem. It's the far right. It's the neo-Nazis. It's racism. It's sexism. It's transphobia. It's homophobia. It's religion. It's conservative America. It's maggots. It's Trump. It's capitalism. It's all a ripple effect. And we already know that you know this, which is why you have to lie. You can't enrich anybody's lives. You can't do anything to make anybody's life better. You can't do anything to really make your country better or people happier. You can't win anything unless you lie, unless you cheat, unless you delude yourself. You remain willfully ignorant to reality. And it's all out of pure selfishness. That's what it all comes down to. You have to lie because you know it's horrific. You know there's a problem. You know where it stems from. You know what side it comes from. You know what rhetoric, what propaganda, what fucked up, whacked out thoughts lead to this shit. And you know it's all something under the umbrella of whatever the fuck it is at the top that you condone, that you follow, that you agree with. And so, of course, you have to lie. You have to blame it on somebody else. You have to think of something besides yourself and your politics and your religion and your conservatism and your politicians and your whacked out, fucked up, archaic, illogical, just doesn't work viewpoints. Maybe it's to hide your low IQ. Maybe it's to hide the fact that you might have a fucking brain parasite, like that other idiot. And you feel ashamed. And, don't say you're not, because we know you are. If you weren't ashamed, you wouldn't have to lie. You wouldn't have to project. You wouldn't have to delude yourself. You wouldn't have to try to pass the buck on to somebody else. Point the finger elsewhere where it doesn't belong. And if you still really felt that guilty, if you really felt that guilty, you really know that it's wrong, but you care about it anyway, and you don't mind that shit like this happens because of your viewpoints, your whacked out thoughts, your low IQ, your mental illness, the people you support, at least own it. At least own it. Come up with a logical, valid, appropriate reason why you feel good waking up in the morning and you can go to sleep every night saying, I am a conservative Republican. I am MAGA. I don't think these people should have rights, but I should have them. Come up with something that makes sense and stick with it. It's one thing I've never heard. You can't do it. And the politicians have tried. The right-wing talking heads and all those pundits have tried. And they continue to argue and they continue to bitch and whine and complain because they're called out on it every time. There is no logic behind it. There is no reasoning behind it. There is just nothing good behind what you stand for. So if you can't come up with something satisfactory, and you know there's nothing satisfactory, that you've got to lie, you've got to continue to self-delude, remain willfully ignorant, bitch and whine and cry about everybody else, at least own it. And just say it the fuck out loud. I hate trans people. I hate gay people. I hate brown people. I hate women when they won't fuck me. I hate everybody but myself and people like me. Because I believe that I'm superior and I should own everything and everybody else should have nothing. Especially if I can't get laid and I can't make real money and I'm miserable, just say it. Just say you're a miserable, racist, homophobic, transphobic, misogynistic fuck. You know that the rest of us know that you don't have a logical excuse for it, a valid reason for it, outside of you're just a miserable fuck who hates everybody. So just say it. MAGA out here trying to convince the world that the 15-year-old far-right Nazi who shot up Abundant Life Christian School is a trans leftist because they refuse to admit their hateful ideology literally kills kids. Exactly. GOP instantly said she is transgender, and that's why. They don't wait for information, just make it up and hope nobody fact checks them. Because how else can you fuckers go to sleep at night? How else can you fuckers get up in the morning and say, I'm an awesome person and there's nothing wrong with me whatsoever? We know you really don't feel that way about yourself, just like you don't feel that way for anyone else. So, this is what you do. And seriously, like, you're not going to be fact checked. But again, if you just say it first and keep saying it, maybe everyone will believe it. The irony is love. You don't stop to say, why do I need to lie? Why do I need to cheat? Why do I need to delude myself? And in the meantime, nothing gets done. Nothing gets done because we've got like 70 million people in this fucking country who cannot handle reality. They don't know what reality is. And they don't care what reality is. They want to live in a bubble. They want to live in a fantasy world. And this is why I kept saying all along, this shit is dangerous, because these people vote and they're weaseling their way into office and they want to dictate your life. They want to dictate everybody else's lives based on their fantasy. And of course, you got people on Twitter already. This is supposed to be the hub for proper news and information. Everybody knows. We all know. No, it isn't. It's a right-wing cesspool. And for anybody watching or listening, this is why it's dangerous, because they want to make that the reality for all of us. Nothing but propaganda. No handle on reality. Pure delusion, low IQ, mental illness, brain parasites, whatever the fuck it is. And that's what destroys a country. We've seen it happen before. And it's happening all over again. And once again, so long as this is allowed to proliferate, we are never going to get to the bottom of these problems. So long as there is a huge, loud as fuck chunk of this country that will not face reality, we are never going to stop school shootings. We are never going to stop racist shootings. We are never going to stop the thieving by the rich. We are never going to have women that are safe in this country. And 34, 38, 43, whatever the fuck number of felony count guilty Trump wants to say, he's sitting there bitching about the CEO shooter. It's not right. People are sick for loving a criminal. That's what I'm talking about. Delusion, living in a bubble, me, and it lowers the bar even more, and it takes us ever backward. Because, he's the criminal. He's the criminal. People who are sane are supporting Luigi Mangione because, the CEO was like a mass murderer, you know? That's why they praise Luigi. Nobody has any praise for a guy who's guilty of handing documents to foreign interests or paying off porn stars or, raping women. It's not the same thing. It's not. And once again, we're going to get the usual thoughts and prayers and a big discussion on whether or not trans people should be outcast from all society and flown in a rocket into the fucking sun because, hate and mental illness and low IQ from the far right as usual. And I'm fucking sick of it. I am fucking sick and tired of it. And that's something else. You're supposed to find shootings bad. Children and teachers at school that get gunned down is bad. Mass shootings are bad. So when you lie so that you can feel good about yourself being a piece of shit and supporting pieces of shit, what you're doing is in a way saying it's okay. That's in essence what it is you're saying. And I wouldn't have had to say that. And nobody would be thinking anything about you if you didn't have to fucking lie because you know where it comes from and you know that you're supportive of everything that happens